So in the early days of the pandemic, there was a lot of reporting related to stock purchases made by some members of Congress and members of the Senate that seemed all too kind of associated with the ongoing and early days of the pandemic. Purchases of pharmaceutical stock, purchases of other stocks related to what would ultimately be our nation's response. And across the board, what I was hearing from constituents and from people I was talking to across our district was just a kind of throw up your hand moment that while the rest of the world was preparing for this impending pandemic and confused and worried and scared, that members of Congress were taking the time to buy and sell stock. And so I was having a conversation with Congressman Roy, a Republican from Texas, and we said, this is just, it's eroding the trust that people have in Congress. It's eroding the trust that people have in their elected representatives, that even the notion, even the perception that we would be focused on our stock portfolio instead of the emergency facing our country. And so at that point in time, we said there really should be a change here. And we decided to introduce the Trust in Congress Act, which really gets at the heart of the issue, which is it does not permit members of Congress, their spouses or their dependent children, does not permit them to sell or buy or trade stock. If you arrive at Congress with stock holdings, you can sell them all off. Or you can put them in a blind trust. And that way, people across our communities and our districts know that we are working for them every single day. And there's not even a perception, an opportunity for our constituents to perceive that our priorities may not be fully and totally on them. The inclusion of spouses is absolutely necessary because if we were to say this is a rule we're putting in place for members of Congress, but the people who share your stock portfolios, they get to do whatever they want. There's a disconnect there. This is a really straightforward issue for many marital spouses and certainly with dependent children. The member of Congress would have conversations, would have joint accounts, would have joint financial holdings, share a home. And I think for everyday people across the country, if the purpose here is to say, not only are we removing the opportunity for ethical behavior, but we're removing even the perception, it's incredibly important that we include spouses and dependent children in that. And certainly for me, I don't want to create a circumstance where it's a little bit of a wink and a nod to say, okay, members of Congress are going to be held to behavior, but if my spouse does all the trading on my behalf, that's nothing that constituents should worry about. What's exciting about our bill is that it really is a bill that people across the political spectrum relate to. If you look at the people who were even among our original co-sponsors, and certainly the many, many members who have joined since, we have members across the ideological spectrum, members across various lengths of service. We've got members who have been in Congress for many terms, members who have just arrived, people from across geographies, across background experience. And really what unites us is this idea that we want to ensure that every single person we serve across our constituencies and our district, that they know that we are serving them and that there's not even a possibility for a distraction, not even a possibility that we may be motivated to serve our own stock portfolios instead of our constituents. And so what's exciting about this bill is that those of us who are focused on not only demonstrating high ethical behavior in the way we do our jobs, but taking that one step further and affirming to the American people that we are deserving of their trust and we are willing to put certain limitations on our personal lives, on our financial lives, to affirm that trust. That really is a very bipartisan notion. And frankly, the more people who learn about our bill, the more people who keep getting on it. So I'm excited about the momentum and certainly the discussions across my district, kind of in the news and across the halls of Congress has been exciting.